Hello, my name is Michael Muscat and I come from sunny island of Malta in the central Mediterranean. I am a beekeeper and what I am going to show in this video is how we beekeepers in Malta introduce ripe queen cells into nuclei which have just been formed. First we have to identify the two hives which are going to be, one is the queen donor and one is the queen raiser. The queen raiser is going to raise the larvae taken from the queen donor. As we can see, hive number 6 is going to be the queen donor and hive number 2 is going to be the queen raiser. The queen donor is selected for ideally best inherited traits, for example, the swarming, resistance to disease, good honey harvesting, and so on. So we are going to open now the queen raiser, which was hive number 2. Here you can see the feeder, which is the miller feeder. Then on top, below, just below, is the storage one, the storage box, where usually honey is stored. And this is just above the brood box which contains the nursery, so to speak. We pay careful attention not to give jerks to the hive, as this may upset the bees. Now the queen raiser already has the queen cells which are almost mature. To protect these, we enclose each queen cell, each ripe queen cell, in these cages. The cages are constructed so that some sugary paste sort of feed is put in the lower lid, which is then closed, and so when the queen bee hatches, if it is not fed by the bees, it will find some little store of food available at the lower end of the cage. We put on gloves and the beak protective attire to protect ourselves from bee stings. We open in the center of the brood box. One finds we usually put the tray which has the borrowed, so to speak, the grafted larvae from the queen donor. And this is the result. The frame which has the mature queen cells, as you can see, one should avoid giving them jerks, because giving jerks may damage the developing wings of the very young developing larvae, which are almost mature queen bees ready to hatch. The bees are brushed off so that they may be handled more easily. As you can see, there are about 8 on each bar, 8 queen cells, but 2 were failures, so queens were not developed, the larvae died. However, the rest all have mature queen cells ready to hatch. Each mature queen cell is then enclosed and in a cage so that when it hatches it will not go around and kill the other bees, the other queen cells, either which have already hatched or are about to hatch. These will ensure that each bee that emerges will remain there and will have no access to the other bees, to the other queen bees. If one requires queen bees to be placed in nuclei, as we are going to show in this video, the cages, together with the enclosed queen cell, is removed from the bars. As you can see, some nuclei which are on another part of the apiary require queen cells because they have just been formed and they have no queens. And doing so, one ensures that each queen is enclosed in a cage, and the remaining, which are about to hatch, are again put back into the center of the brood box where the energy, the heat is at its maximum, so the ideal conditions for the brood to hatch. Then the upper box is laid on top of the brood box. Pay attention not to squash any bees at the sides. The empty miller feeder on top, which may also, in sunny heat conditions here in Malta, may act as a sort of ventilator. It creates to helps in keeping the hive rather cool. And these are the 3 removed queen cells ready to be introduced in 3 separate nuclei. The queen cell and the protective cage. Now we have these 3 cages. If unprotected, this is what will happen. The bees may nibble at the side and kill the developing queen, and we will end up with, this is another one which has been nibbled at the side, and the queen and the larvae destroyed. So we may think that we have developing queens in the making, and we will end up with nothing. So a very simple way of ensuring that the queen will hatch and goes right into the box, not being kept enclosed, is to protect it using a very simple kitchen aluminium foil. Cut it into strips, the aluminium foil, which is then wrapped around the queen cell, as is being shown right here. Being careful not to squash the delicate queen cell, which is made of wax. In doing so, the foil will stick to the upper part, the plastic part of the setout. One must ensure that the lower end is opening, because there is the only opening for the queen bee to come out when it hatches. As you can see there is enough space for the queen bee. It moves the lower cap and forms sort of a lid. A little transparent tape will keep the whole setup in position. We'll ensure that these 3 now, we have the 3 already covered in protective aluminum foil. Again, we must make sure that there is this space available for the queen to emerge. So the queen cell will be placed right in the center of the brood box. It is the heat and the warmth which is generated by the brood and by the colony, and yet the bees are not able to nibble at the sides and destroy the queen. Now this is the method of how we insert this protected queen cell, ripe queen cell, into a nuclei. This nucleus was formed from other hives in these last 3 days or 2 days prior to the insertion of the protected queen cell. There we place it right in the center. One queen cell per nuclei is enough. The frames are then put close together, and that side will help to retain the queen cell in the vertical position. This is the usual position in the hive, always pointing downwards. Here is a close-up of how the queen cell appears. Immediately the bees which are eager to have their own queen will sense that there is a queen cell. They are unable to destroy it from the side because the aluminium foil prevents them from doing so. And they are waiting for the queen to emerge. The queen may emerge in 1 or 2 days. The hive is then enclosed and left quietly undisturbed for about 15 days, giving enough time for the queen to emerge, get mated, and start laying eggs. A repeat of the procedure now follows with the second nucleus. One must be careful in forming the nucleus because one has to make sure that the nucleus will thrive on its own. So there is usually one frame full of stores, we call it, which is honey, kept and unkept. So if no feeding is given, the bees will still have their own supply of honey for their energy. Then a very important aspect is the pollen. The pollen is the only source of protein for the developing larvae. Here we can see a frame which is almost half full of pollen on both sides. This will make sure that the emerging queen will have enough honey and pollen to start laying, and the queen and the bees that follow the larvae have enough stores to be fed. Now the mature queen cell about to hatch in 1 or 2 days, and yet protected by the aluminum foil, is again placed, as I have already seen in the first nucleus, right in the center. One has to make sure that it is placed and fixed to the comb so that it may not fall down. If it does fall, the queen may be damaged as it is developing, especially the delicate wing buds. Here we have a close-up of how it is placed at the upper part of the frames of the hive and always pointing downwards. The frames are then moved closer together so that it is fixed on both sides to two adjacent frames. There is enough space for the queen cell to be free. It is not squashed in between the two frames, and yet it is rigidly fixed and it will not fall. Within 1 or 2 days the queen will hatch, and there will be no fear of boiling the queen, because the bees may be so eager for the queen that they all cluster around it, and usually it is killed in the process. Now, 3 weeks later, the first hive that had its queen inserted is now being opened to see whether the process has succeeded or not. Here you can see a frame full of bees, and again the pollen is evident on both sides. What we are seeing here is stores in the center, and the pollen, the yellowish cells, pollen grains, enough to see the first developing larvae have enough stores to be fed with. Again, a store for honey, the honey stores for the energy required by the hive, and the central one will be the key and clue whether the process has succeeded. And there it is. There is brood in all stages, and especially the sealed brood, compact and occupying a fairly large area of the brood, of the frame on both sides, shows that the hive now, the nucleus, has a queen which has already mated successfully and is already laying. So this is a good hive, almost ready to increase in population, of course, and then it is transferred.